Bloom, co-founder of NextTMT, the newsletter, and NextTMT Talks, the podcast, here with my co-founder, Daniel Frankel, for our weekly conversation about all things media, tech, and technology, media, and telecom, TMT, and how they're banging into each other in lots of interesting ways. This week, with limp oversight from federal regulators, can California Attorney General Rob Bonta and like-minded state AGs elsewhere in the country provide some sort of skeptical eye to media consolidation? Our only FCC chairman wants broadcasters to make more patriotic shows and play American music like John Philip Sousa. And you thought broadcast ratings were already sinking. Meanwhile, new Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro says he wants more creativity and storytelling fueled by technology, while two controversies flare up and a part of the Disney empire that he didn't actually realize he needed to care about: television. The NADA war continues to have ripple effects in unexpected places, such as Formula One. Meanwhile, Dan dogs Nielsen's gauge, which needs to be recalibrated. Finally, California's much improved tax incentive program is starting to make at least a modest dent in the runaway production hitting Hollywood for, 30 years now, while my pal Rob Tercek points out the internal inconsistencies with the U.S. Copyright Office's position on what copyright can actually cover in the era of AI. Oh. So, welcome back, Dan. Have you been partaking of March Madness, male or female, in any way whatsoever?
I watched some of the USC comeback with Jazzy Davidson, the freshman.
Oh, she's awesome. She's awesome. God, if Juju had been healthy, that would be a 1-2 punch for the
They've
ages.
got a 5-star freshman coming in next year. Jazzy will be back, hopefully, if they can keep her. They had some transfers last year. They didn't do well in
yeah. And Juju's Juju.
He's healthy. If he comes back, man, that's going to be a powerful.
That's the power. And actually, and I hate to mention this because I know it makes your skin crawl, UCLA has a really good women's team. It's a number 1 seed. So with a dominating player. Team. Yeah.
Unlike twice as many losses at USC, they've had 2 losses. USC is 21-1, ranked 13th. Mm-hmm. They've got the number. They're dominant women's basketball, ranked number 1, I think, in the nation, and they're doing well in the men's tournament. I understand they won yesterday, so
they did win. And Mick Cronin was grumpy about the whole thing. I was actually kind of interested. One of the things I do, because I clearly have too much time on my hands, was look at the way multi-view was handled on both the Apple TV that I have on my big screen in the main thing and my Roku TV, which I have on my desk here where I work. And I Roku does a good job with a lot of this stuff. But I was annoyed when, the one of the tech challenges of having not only multi-screen but multi-providers of the game. So the streamers, both HBO Max and Paramount Plus are obviously separate from Spectrum. Right. And so the game could come up on any one of them, right? And so it'll show all those games. Just go to, it's like, oh, this is great. So click, and it says, are you a subscriber? It's like, you don't know, Roku. You don't know. You've had my apps, which I'm subscribed to for 400 years since Gutenberg invented the Roku. And yet somehow it doesn't know that I'm subscribed to all those apps and have been since the dawn of the streaming revolution. It's really an odd hole, and I'm sure there's a backstory on this that I don't know.
March Madness was kind of confusing in the pay TV ecosystem.
Kind of.
Games on TBS, games on TBS, TNT. And what was
True TV? The only time in the year that anybody watched True TV was for a week and a half during the first couple of weeks of March Madness. And then otherwise, like, this doesn't exist, does it? Do I subscribe to that? Yeah.
So yeah, you're streaming, and it is confusing. So we're going to start. I'm sure our many of our audience are going. They're talking sports again, so
we're not talking sports here. We're talking technology used to show one of the biggest TV events of the year and the biggest gambling event, one of the biggest gambling events of the year. And of course, that's all the sports is these days. We can get into, since you opened the newsletter with Rob Bonta. We've talked a little bit about Bonta in the past, but now they're getting aggressive about trying to hold up this rather, it feels a little informal, the approval by the FCC, for instance, of just waving away the ownership caps on station group ownership, and concentration of media. They said, oh, sure, no problem. You're going to go from less than 39% to 80% of the nation coverage with buying Tegna. No big deal. Go ahead. Carry on.
There's back-to-back issues. It was a populist revolt to the settlement with Live Nation Entertainment, the Ticketmaster company, a few weeks back.
Yeah. That was not a firm talking to.
Well, you have Tim Fox, who's out there publicly saying, "Yeah, we're going to let them have it," and then, Pam Bond. I guess.
No, but see, when he said we're going to let them have it, he didn't. What he meant was we're going to let them have it. Right. Not we're going to let them have it. It's we're going to let them have it. See, you misunderstood the way he emphasized those words.
There was a lawsuit initiated during the Biden White House in spring 2024. And after a couple of meetings on a golf course with a lobbyist, Tim Lewicki, who used to run Live Nation.
I've interviewed Tim Lewicki. He used to run all the operations at the Staples Center.
He was being indicted for separate issues. He's off the hook, and all of a sudden Bondi kind of undermined all the litigators, most of which got fired. Her team,
right?
And I mean, the judge,
they wouldn't have known how to enforce the rules.
Judge,
they didn't have anybody with any background, right?
Was just flabbergasted that the lead attorney for the DOJ wasn't even aware until that morning that a settlement had been made. He didn't know the terms, and the terms were very light on Live Nation. For one thing, for starters, they didn't have to break up. They got to keep Ticketmaster. They had to surrender some rights to some venues and do some other things, but it was a slap on the wrist. You've got Tegna, which required, in order to buy, or I should say Nexstar, to buy Tegna for $6.2 billion, a major mulligan had to be issued for a big law that said you could only reach 39% of the country with stations. It's kind of broadcast dogma for decades. Now Tegna is going to reach 80% of the country. So they didn't just violate the law a little bit. They totally...
No, they stepped all over. They doubled down. I mean, they went from less than 40%, 39%, to 80%. It's like, oh, let's just blow through this puppy. Boom. Right?
And everybody's kind of concerned that Paramount, Warner Brothers will not get any antitrust scrutiny at all. At the same level, I forget what the day count was. We have it in the newsletter. But the review of Nexstar Tegna was conspicuously short. And they suspect that for the sake of the Ellisons, Paramount, Warner Brothers will be short too, because they're on that.
You should measure the time that it takes to review this by the number of golfing weekends available until they say sure. Until Trump's cheated in enough golf tournaments at his own club that it's okay.
It goes back to what we were talking about months ago. You said watch out for the state AGs. California and New York were influential in T-Mobile Sprint, and they could exert some force here. They didn't end up getting a lot of concessions with T-Mobile Sprint, but they did delay the process. And if you're paying $650 million a quarter in ticking fees after September, which Paramount will do if this runs into regulatory overtime, that could be a factor. So
it does run into real money. I mean, even they are saying it's going to be first quarter of next year. So that's $1.3 billion by my very loose math. Now, what's $1.3 billion when you're spending $111 billion? I mean, it's just chicken feed. You and I spend that much trying to finance this high production quality podcast. But it does add up, and particularly when you have to service all of that debt. It's just another, 5,000 people you got to lay off. Big deal.
Anyway, the man who is kind of like California Governor Gavin Newsom, Rob Bonta is the state attorney general. He is stepping up with cooperation with New York's Attorney General and other state jurisdictions, to challenge all three of these DOJ, FCC greenlightings. And the question is, will he be effective? What kind of concessions could they get? Well, for starters, and this is what I'm hearing from people I've talked to, none of these deals have met much scrutiny so far. So it's not like they've been battle tested in court. So
they're like the Miami of Ohio basketball team was racked up a 31-0 record, then lost in its conference tournament, and then lost in its first round game because they hadn't played anybody. Yeah. And they were a great team, but they hadn't played anybody. They didn't know, they weren't used to the rigors of highly competitive stuff. That's a March Madness specific metaphor that probably is lost on many decent human beings. But that being said, honing your arguments before you get in front of like a skeptical judge, probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually having litigators who know how to litigate and understand the facts of the case and the facts of the federal and state law, also useful. So I've been told. I don't know anything. I'm not a lawyer. But it's often useful, not just their ability to parrot the Heritage Foundation Project 2025 talking points, for instance. So we'll see how that rolls out. Should be great fun for Bonta as he prepares for his next higher office. Hard to know what that's going to be, but it could be a lot of things. Right. Meanwhile, the FCC, he continues to be quite something.
Yes, I didn't know it until this weekend, but Brendan Carr's dad was Thomas Carr, Esquire.
Yes, yes.
Defense attorney for Richard Nixon.
Among much else, he was a high-profile Washington attorney, as Carr, as Brendan Carr was, as a nepo baby to his father and a lawyer about town who got put into this job. But he's second-generation Hollywood lobbyist dude. Lawyer, fixer guy. That's his background. Yes, I knew that.
I should have known this and understood it better. I kind of knew it watching Succession. I've been watching the Rupert Murdoch documentary on Netflix. Have you been watching this?
No. It's in the
better pool on Murdochian history than I am, but it's focused on the latest, redrawing of the irrevocable trust, which I guess turned out.
Yeah, that was a pretty epic thing. Unfortunately, so much it was done behind closed doors in a Nevada probate court.
Right.
But there's been some very interesting post-mortems on certainly the impact of it as Rupert tries to make sure that idiot son Lachlan doesn't have too big a company to manage for his limited capabilities, speaking of nepo babies, and B, carries on his somewhat peculiar Australian-hatched, American-honed vision of conservatism in this era.
It would surprise the audience to witness as my perfect ego integrity every one of these sessions that I have some daddy issues. But the whole thing was really cathartic to me because I look at, Lachlan and his brother and, Liz and.
Yeah, there's 4 siblings in the first sort of generation of Rupert offspring, and there's a couple of more trailing in with wives 4 and 5, I think. So,
what's the other brother's name? Lachlan's younger brother?
I am blanking out. It doesn't matter. He's gainfully unemployed now as a billionaire.
But you look
doing
at
whatever
what he went through just in the depositions where he shows up at one point prepared, he thinks, and his father is in the deposition. And it, in the
room during the deposition.
Right. Yeah. And he watches his father text deeply personal questions to deliver to the son, to the lawyers. And you realize that no matter what kind of experiences and conflicts you had with your father, your dad never did what Rupert did to his children. It was cathartic for me. My God, that bad man. Ooh.
That lizard king, as we like to call him.
Anyways,
it's each of the 3 other children were given $1.1 billion for agreeing to, because they beat him in the court decision, and they could have joined together to wrest from Lachlan control of the company after Rupert's death, which likely won't come for another 45 years as he makes whatever deal with whichever devils he knows. I have to assume there's quite a few that can cut some corners for him. But he's now 95, so it might happen sooner than later. But the fact is they were each given $1.1 billion to sign away their rights and allow the trust to be shifted. And that's a lovely consolation prize with which I have been told you can do many things besides just improve the production values of your podcast. But perhaps they'll do that too.
Already launched a huge production company, Shine. I mean, she went out and did something on her own.
No, she did. Yeah, Elizabeth did some stuff. I mean, she's a serious, grown-up, smart cookie. Shine did well. Obviously, there was still the whiff of, Nepo baby and all that, but she kind of did that without Rupert. She kind of left the family fold and went off to show she could do it. And obviously, she knew a lot of people because of who she was related to. She was taken seriously, in part because she knew people who knew people in Fox, and News Corp, et cetera, et cetera. But she did it, and she did it in England.
So. She could be a successful woman in entertainment and media.
Yeah.
A track record. But, when the leader of a major conglomerate like Josh D'Amaro decides that he's done it. Sarah Michelle Gellar learned this the hard way this week. Talk about that.
Well, the timing was, let's say, less than wholly sensitive. I don't know that Dana Walden necessarily shepherded that quite the way. I mean, they shot a pilot for a redone Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and there is definitely a fan base out there. I hadn't realized, but it makes total sense. There was apparently a whole queer fan base because this was a 90s show, and it showed like two women kissing at a time when that wasn't done on network TV. Right. And it was sort of gay coded in some ways that are a little opaque to me, but totally got it. But beyond that, it had a fan base. And then they brought in the prestige element, Chloe Zhao, who has 2 Oscars from her time directing and producing Nomadland a couple years ago, and got 2 more Oscar nominations this time around for Hamnet, a excellent but soul-gutting kind of show about William Shakespeare and his wife and their loss of their child. So serious, big girl, director rethinking a treasured 90s show. But they did a pilot, wasn't well received. They decided not to go forward because they'd have to tear it up and do too much and change characters out and all that. And they didn't want to go ahead. And I think it's probably a price thing. It's like our audience is probably going to be about this big and the cost is going to be about that big. And this doesn't necessarily make sense in terms of return on investment. But they let Sarah Michelle Gellar, the Buffy, the buffed out Buffy, who was going to have a somewhat different role as a grown-up with a different vampire killer. There's like one chosen every generation. So she was going to graduate from that role and have a different young vampire killer in there.
There's no
They let her know right before the premiere of the new movie she's in. So she's coming out on stage going, I got bad news, but this is going to be a good movie, guys.
So things happen.
Yeah. Not well handled, I'll just say, in terms of talent, massaging, and all that. They had a separate one that's actually much more consequential to me.
Are you going to The Bachelorette?
Yeah, I'm not a Bachelorette person. I'm not even a Bachelor anymore. I've been out of that game for quite a while now. But I certainly know lots of people, including somehow weirdly, the straight male spouses or boyfriends of many females I know who more or less happily sat through early seasons or mini seasons of The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and The Bachelor, because they had both. But the ratings have been fading because they're fading on everything in broadcast TV. And they were trying to juice the ratings. So what did they do? They went and got one of the trad wives from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. What?
My older son was in preschool. I remember there was this dude from Buffalo. I know this because he had a Buffalo Bills website he was still doing. But he was a producer on this new show called The Bachelor. And this was just the start of it. My son is now,
Right.
a 23-year-old college student. Like
Right.
It's it's been on for a while. So go ahead.
It has been on. It's been a very durable franchise that has had on both its iterations, both a female that's trying to figure out which of 30 suitors she wants, or a male trying to figure out which of 30 suitesses. I don't know what they call a female suitor. Suitors will just be non-gender specific. He wants who gets the rose, the final rose, all that stuff. It has been a ratings king, queen, monarch for a long time, but fading. And so they're going to try and juice the ratings. So they got this new show called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which has become a hit, showing that these supposedly trad wife Mormon girls quite so traditional in some of their practices, and it became a hit in the last, I think this the third season just debuted recently. One of the sort of breakthrough stars / lightning rods was this Taylor Frankie Paul, and she has this combustible relationship with the father of her child, and combustible enough that they got into a fight that led to her being put on probation, and then they decided to make her the star of The Bachelorette, and then a bar owner where the fight, which involved her throwing bar stools that hurt her ex and her child, released the video after they'd shot the entire season.
You got our children mixed together. You got me in. What can happen?
Mormon bar domestic violence by the woman hurting her child. This is what they call a good look.
Disney.
So on Thursday, I guess probably right after they sent Sarah Michelle Gellar her sad note, they pulled the plug on the season, which has led to bigger questions about whether the franchise.
What kind of flower do you package with your shows up?
I'm thinking a black rose.
Right.
So
what else? What's on the conveyor belt of the next?
Well, we don't want to lose track of Brendan Carr, Nepo Brendan. Now wants broadcasters to make more patriotic shows and play patriotic music, like rousing marches from John Philip Sousa. The Daily Show had some fun with that one, with Jordan Klepper dressed up like Kid Rock, playing the Wheels of Steel with a John Sousa march, which was kind of like, I could see this is going to really goose ratings, Brendan. You're worried about the state of broadcasting, and you're going to protect local news by making sure football stays on it. But meanwhile, let's just kill any audience interest other than apparently him in anything that's on there. So,
I'm taking the Joe Rogan approach to anything I hear out of the administration. That's crazy. That's just crazy.
It's crazy, man.
It's insane.
It's insane and nuts and crazy. Meanwhile, Josh D'Amaro, the new Disney CEO, who just took over the job on Wednesday, told one outlet he wants more creativity and storytelling, fueled by technology. And I think that's great. I think the more interesting possible thing, it's like, we'll see how that works out, because Hollywood is so risk averse. This is not his métier. That's going to be Dana Walden's baby. Let's see how they get beyond, the latest season of The Bachelorette or a reboot of Buffy to actual original IP, intellectual property that might be able to be the next generation beyond Star Wars and Marvel and Toy Story. I'm skeptical that they'll do that. But
piece of work not based on a previous comic book, other movie, TV show.
Right. Or just a sequel or a live action remake or blah, 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 blah. All of that. So okay, you go for it, bro. Love to see it. It'd be really useful to you to do that in an era where, you're not acquired. There's not another big Marvel sitting out there to be snapped up for a few $1 billion like Iger, like his predecessor, Bob Iger did. So how do you transform that? And then the second part of that, the part that he absolutely understands very well as the longtime head of the experiences part of Disney, is how do you goose up the flywheel, as they call it in Disneyland, Disney/land. The Disney world, the world of Disney that is not actually the theme parks, but taking film and TV properties and getting them onto pajamas and comic books and theme park rides and cruise ships and on and Halloween costumes. He wants to speed that up, and I think that's like great. Okay, go for it, brother. But I think it comes with some risk, because how are you going to choose which ones to speed the thing up on? If you choose wrong on the next Pixar original, you got, I don't know, 50 million in unsold merch sitting around when Elio 2 comes along, or the whatever. There's some risk there.
Of speeding things up, I'm going to move a little bit to one of your favorite topics, the Formula One circuit.
Yes.
And per prediction, they can't.
We're heading to the finish line, folks. Not quite there, but we're definitely not the backstretch. We're coming around the third turn. It's really a horse racing, not car racing.
Because of the war, have been canceled in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, which seems like
Bahrain. Yeah, it's a big deal.
A league that is exploding in popularity globally, and this could be. I mean, they're gonna. There are some other Mid-Eastern races scheduled for later in the year.
Two more. There are two more in the fall when it cools down a little bit again. But this is a big deal because they've only had 2 races so far in the new season. They've got a new team from Cadillac, which is still trying to figure out, what do you do with all 4 tires? Aston Martin's got a new was struggling, and they hired away from Audi a senior exec to kind of run the stuff. So lots of drama. Max Verstappen, who is I think a 2-time or 3-time champion, hates the new generation of cars that debuted this year with this different function that uses like an electric engine boost for short-term boosts, but then is wiped out, but allows you to do overtaking because they weren't overtaking. So that could change the whole racing strategy thing. Right. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of cool drama. If you're a Drive to Survive person, and I've actually never seen the show, but if you're a Drive to Survive person, this is like, this is going to be a great season for that. Behind the scenes on all this stuff's going to be awesome. But getting two of the big races in the biggest source of new money gone is not great. I think you quoted 140 million in sponsorship dough and another 40 million in race day revenue.
Pino at Wolf Research, it's an equity research company, and there was other 40 million in sponsorship money that just gets eaten. So
there's nothing to be sponsored, so all of a sudden it's gone, and that impacts John Malone's Liberty Media owns the circuit, and it's kind of a weird thing to own.
I was researching that, and Malone was talking about the business climate in 2020. He was interviewed by Bloomberg, and he said, Trump, I like a lot of his policies, but he just creates a climate of chaos for the business community. It's really
that covers it pretty well. Yeah,
this was and what happened between the 4 years between, I guess, the pandemic made everybody forget.
This is like the business person's equivalent of a woman having a kid, going through all the trauma of childbirth and all that, and then 2 years later going, I'd like to have another kid. They forget all that other pain and agony and body transformations and everything else that comes with it. The sleeplessness from the kids, the little one, et cetera, the poop that needs to be cleaned up. It says, I'll have another child. So we basically are back having another child with the child.
Yeah.
And there you go.
It's like, I don't want to turn the platform, and maybe it already has, into another
too late.
Yes. But it is baffling when you consider what we experience. It's like, yes, ostensibly there are more potential for deregulation, and certainly it's easier to get things done on many levels. But I remember having this conversation with you. Don't you see how chaotic this is going to get? Anyway, told you. Sorry.
Some people don't like the current system, and they say any chaos and change is better. And I'm sure a lot of them are saying, "Well, I didn't mean that much chaos. I didn't mean that much change. It's a little change, some change, But you get what you get, and you get to reap the harvest, and that's where we are." Speaking of,
can I just talk about real fast?
Yeah. I was wanting to go to the Nielsen gauge, which apparently needs to be recalibrated because it's out of whack. Because as you put it, they put some dog food in the dog food, and the dogs ain't eating.
Well, they've got this proprietary secret formula that has their analog panels, measured screen time, and it has a good confluence because a lot of most of streaming now is used on TVs as opposed to its earlier days where it was consumed a lot of notebook computers and phones. So everybody assumes it's accurate and dogmatically pays attention to the monthly monolith, which is the gauge and the distributor gauge.
People are a little hung up on that gauge. I mean, it became a thing for a whole bunch of folks to pontificate upon and all the rest. It's interesting how once they started doing that, people went, "Oh, that we can deal with." Not this day part crap, but that. Who gets what share of various programming and audience share, all that.
That referenced it early. It was, he showed that it was his dashboard for, for share of eyeballs. And I think, it's easy to follow. It's a very crisp narrative, and it has gained a following. It is, I mean, people were talking for a while, but measurement was wide open, and Nielsen was not credible anymore. They don't have those conversations anymore. So it's done a lot for them. They are working with the Advertising Research Foundation on their DASH data. I don't have it in front of me. It's called ARF Dash.
ARF Dash, yeah. I mean, the memorable name ARF Dash, which you suggested was like a delivery service for canines, but
right. So they have a new formula for the dog food based on a combination of their own panel research and ARF Dash research. And is it credible? How's it made? I don't know, but the industry is dogmatic about its presence, and
you are dogging this thing hard, man. I think you're woofing up the wrong tree, but whatever. You can keep beating that dead dog down the street.
So initially for February,
I mean, you had so many puns in the segment about this in the newsletter. And this is me talking, so it had to be a lot. I just kind of cringed and looked away.
I had a certain managing editor at Variety who used to come up to me when I do stuff like this, go, "Dan, just stop, okay?" He was crazy as a loon, but he was right about that.
He was not wrong. He was not wrong. Finally, two last bits.
Let me just get this. I'm not done. So streaming was shortchanged. There was a ruckus about it. Mm-hmm. What happened was they didn't publish gauge numbers for February. They're pushing those back until April. You'll get February and March when they release that data. And then the new methodology will debut at the start of the fall season. That's the story we're getting from.
I just wonder if we'll get like double pontificating from all the people who like riff on this thing. Double pontificating where they do twice as many in a shorter period of time, or they do kind of like 2 for 1. February and March.
The cottage industry of people on LinkedIn who take the same data we all get and put it in new charts and graphics. Look, streaming, if you look at it, is dominant, and this other side of the lentil. And it's just the number of people doing that baffles me. It's just like that's all we got. The gauge. Anyway.
Yeah, that's all we got. I mean, all these other companies that are quite good, like iSpot, that do a lot of good work. Man, they get some progress, they get some uptake, but the advertisers got their security blankets, however imperfect they are, and they ain't letting go. I mean, it's like Linus and Peanuts. They ain't letting go. It's the end of the world if they don't have their stuff. So they're gonna have to go cold turkey for a few weeks. It's gonna be tough.
One last thing, and then it's all yours. I got it was Pure 39, which is an analytics company for programmatic advertising. Released some data on accurate metadata in programming for FAST and other streaming sold programmatically. And
I think what they released was the lack of accurate metadata for programming.
Like 60% of it has no accurate
it's
data.
Useless. It's like useless. And it's like, particularly in FAST, this is an issue because FAST is supposed to be the big new thing, right? And
monetization sucks.
Yeah. Well, if you can't even figure out what genre your show is, and admittedly, a groundbreaking, pioneering show like Petticoat Junction, hard to put into a little tiny box of genre. What is that? Is that a family show? Is that an homage to a simpler time? Is it a train story? I mean, like, what is it, right? So how can you advertise against Petticoat Junction? That's a crucial question, particularly 24-hour marathons of Petticoat Junction for a very specific audience. I can only vaguely imagine. But it is an interesting question more generally. AI is supposed to fix some of this by going in, analyzing frame by frame. I mean, you've probably heard the same pitches I've heard. Analyzing frame by frame each show, language, the emotions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, who all the the makers are and all that stuff, and then say it belongs here. This is where it goes, right here in this box. This is the box for Petticoat Junction and similarly situated shows. Advertise against that box if you want that audience, which is this. That's what it's supposed to do, because no one bothered to do any of this stuff when these things were being made 50 years ago or 12 years ago, for that matter, and much less attaching it in a consistent way across all their product. So it's a big problem. I think the thing that's sort of shocking to me is not that it's a problem, but that it's still a problem after people have been talking about it for a long time already.
It's why search and discovery, because it's so vast. And
hundreds of thousands of hours of shows. Yeah.
Nobody, I mean, who do we talk to? Tony Hedor at Cinenine kind of had the most interesting things.
Yeah, Tony Hedor, that's what they're trying to do with their the checkpoint system. I mean, that's what they're trying to do, and using AI to analyze this stuff. And that's great. And they've got some clients and partners and stuff like that, and they're doing it within their universe of programming on their 30 or so FAST channels and dedicated channels. So that's great. So that's one company that's got some offerings. And you're right. They're definitely one trying to fix it.
For years on metadata, and whether it's content discovery or finding content that's safe, brand safe, it's a lot of rhetoric, and
a lot of rhetoric, and we still haven't seen enough rubber hit the road. Right. We're not quite ready to hit the road, but we're getting close. We're coming around the final turn, heading into Bahrain. Oh, not Bahrain. We're going to go, not Australia. We'll go somewhere like Monaco. We'll go to Monaco. That's not actually till July. Anyway, California's much improved tax incentive program is starting to make at least a modest dent in trying to keep at least some shows here in the Golden State. I've been writing about runaway production since the wee small hours of the late 90s. Actually, early 90s, because I was covering politics back then. Yeah. I was covering the effort to create the LA Film Office, which was a merger of the city and the county film permitting offices to help reduce some of the bureaucracy and annoyances that filmmakers even back then were facing, and to keep the costs down and the permitting costs down by streamlining and all. Made perfect sense. But stuff was still going to Vancouver, still going to Toronto, and increasingly it's going lots of other places. And part of the reason why they were going is they were getting paid to go make their stuff somewhere else. They were getting tax incentive programs that often were quite substantial, up to 30%. Flat off your bottom line at a time when California had much higher labor costs. And I'm all for working people making decent money. And this is decent money, particularly for a job that you only have for a few months and then you're unemployed until the next job comes along. And the next, I mean, it's not like you're going to retire with a gold watch by being a key grip on the same movie or even TV show. I mean, except maybe The Bachelor. But you know,
a really long time. Like 20 years ago, I remember Neighbors was filming, Transformers was filming. Like I had a house in the corner that like was smaller than all the big Craftsman's next to it. It was my first house, so don't shoot me. But like it was a commercial.
I'm not going to talk about the size of your dwelling.
I get paid $100 for the.
Were you master of your domain? That's all we really care about.
I mastered a few extortive payments because we were majorly put out. I mean, there was production every week at one point. It wasn't that long. That was 15 years ago. I see nothing now. There's not one truck.
Different neighborhood, though, admittedly. Hip neighborhood, lots of things going in there, but it's in transition to an interesting place, sometimes controversial, but different place. So I'm not really surprised. It's not quite the same as where you were before, right?
Well, we're close enough that I would observe it, even if it's not in the area I moved to. I go by 20 years where I used to live.
Well, when I lived in the San Fernando Valley, trust me, I saw plenty over there. I mean, wide streets, neighbors that were a little more forgiving, kind of places that look like every neighborhood.
Things like I don't see nearly as much of it anywhere.
Oh, and the shooting data that the LA Film Office releases every month shows a lot of that is okay. It's dropped. I mean, the pandemic obviously put a crimp on everything, right. But they took the tax incentive program or that the state had and more than doubled it from 330 million to 750 million. So all of a sudden it's more competitive with what Georgia and New York and other states are doing. It's pretty much in the same ballpark, different structures and all that, but at least it's in the same ballpark. So that's good. So it kind of takes some of that off the plate. You still got higher labor costs. You still got other things, but you get to sleep in your own bed when you get done with the production at the end of the day. You don't have to, oh, by the way, another unintended consequence of everything that's going on in the NATO war is diesel costs, which aren't made out of Texas crude. They're made out of heavier stock like what comes out of the Middle East. Diesel fuel is skyrocketing. It might cost $10,000 a week to get the trucks that move your sets and your lighting and sound and all that stuff around for a production. So all of a sudden your prices have gone way up. It's a couple of percent on the margin, but it's another thing that
Obama.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting. One last thing as we come toward the checkered flag of our conversation. My buddy Rob Tercek, one of the smartest humans really on media and tech. He worked at Sony Mobile 1,000 years ago, consulted with lots of people, routinely speaks on international stages about stuff. He sees things before mere mortals such as I see them, which is one of the reasons why I like talking with Rob. I haven't seen Rob in a while. He's also a hell of a painter. He's a
breakthrough.
What?
What's the big breakthrough?
Well, his point, such as it is that the U.S. Copyright Office now says that you cannot get copyright for anything that's made with AI. And he says that's nice, except that increasingly all the creative tools, all of them, are using AI to create. And at some point, you're going to say, what? Every film in Hollywood, every TV show, all the music or much of it doesn't get copyright coverage? It's like, I don't think that's going to work. I think that's what he's saying too, and I agree with him. But he also, and this is the interesting part for me because of my historical bet, this is not that different. And I noticed you edited this, you bastard, to make more room for talking about our Nepo baby, whichever one it was. I can't keep track of them all. This is very much like what happened with the U.S. Copyright Office, which of course is part of the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution, that thing that Trump's not big on. When photography came along, it took 45 years for people to get their heads around the idea that when you use a machine to capture an image, that can still be a creative work.
Right.
45 years. And it won't take that long, I think, for this evolution, but everything's moving faster now. But it is very much a reprise of something that occupied a good chunk of the 19th century when technology impacted creativity. And we're back at it again, trying to figure out, because it's hard to tease out, okay, I did all this was me and this part over here was them. And so do I get 75% copyright? Like, what do I get? So at some point something's going to have to give. So
it's weird, the Pentagon is like parsing Claude and OpenAI and
right.
first of the latest technology, but like the Copyright Office and other areas, it's like you have to wait 45 years for it to catch up.
I think they've, times were different in the 19th century. But that being said, it comes from a very conservative approach, and some of me gets that moving slowly to embrace things, to understand what they mean. But Rob's point is, we're kind of already there. I mean, I certainly see what Adobe, for an example, with Photoshop and Premiere Pro, how it's knitting Firefly, its AI initiative, more deeply into those things and crucial bits. You still have the artist in charge, and they're more conscientious about.
It just has elements of AI in it.
Yeah, I have to get some of the scut work, and believe me, there's plenty when you're trying to edit, hours of footage or go through hundreds of photos, like maybe hundreds of wedding photos to find the 30 or 40 or 50 that you're going to give to your client. Like, is this one better than that one? Like, let's just kind of cull it down a little bit and apply consistent color treatments and LUT treatments, lookup tables for stuff like that. Things like that. AI can be really helpful on all that stuff. And you took the photo, you used a machine to do it, and now you're using another machine to go look at it, and another and tools to edit it and make it look all better. But that's okay as long as AI does not taint the final product. So this is going to have to change, and we'll see how it turns out. In the meantime, it's time. We have crossed the finish line. I am David Bloom, co-founder of NextTMT, the newsletter.
NAB.
What?
NAB.
So we're going to be in Las Vegas. Adobe's having a summit. National Association of Broadcasters is having its annual show there, Roastathon, at the same time. I'm going to try and hit both. Dan will be. We're going to be trying to do daily shows, conversations. Looking forward to talking to people there. Looking forward to sponsors wanting to get in front of our beloved audience. Some of the smartest people in the entire universe who are also very attractive and thoughtful and articulate. That's my belief, anyway. So reach out to us. Let us know. You can get our newsletter delivered straight to your mailbox twice a week now. At NextTMT, as in technology, media, and telecom, nexttmt.com. Sign up for free. Show up. We also have this newsletter, or this podcast, which is both in audio and video form, and now we're streaming live. We'd love to get some of you folks to like our page on LinkedIn, our nexttmt.com page on LinkedIn, because then we can stream live on LinkedIn, because then we'll be with the cool kids.
Yeah,
right? The business-minded cool kids.
YouTube, and just every once in a while, love a call. Let us know you're okay.
Yeah. It's sort of what I say to my children as they ignore me. But hey, that's the way it goes. This is David Bloom, Daniel Frankel. Like, share, subscribe, comment, do all the things. All the things. We love you all. Thank you. Over and out. Yeah, sure, we can do something. Hey, kids, we're going to be at NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show.
Why don't we do that? I think we have at the end. We'll start next week because I want to hammer out the dates and the plan a little bit more. Next week we'll have the plan.
Okay, why don't you do that, but don't turn on the live feed. I don't think we need a live feed here. I got an idea.